Good day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today is February 17th, 2022. We're continuing our coverage of the ongoing crisis between Russia and Ukraine. We continue to see very hostile rhetoric coming out of both sides, and now we're starting to see heavier fighting taking place in the trading of artillery between the the Eastern separatists that are Russian-backed and the Ukrainian military as well. So let's have a look at some of the headlines that we're seeing out of the current conflict today, February 17th. So we have this is coming out of B92. Biden declares war. Ukrainian forces target civilians. So obviously that's a pro-Russian media site. Let's see here. The News Tribune, Washington. Russia delivers response to U.S. NATO security proposals. And that was not a positive response. Again, they feel like Russia feels like a lot of their demands were ignored, which I don't see how the West could have followed through with some of those demands, especially in terms of rolling back some of the deployments in some of those Eastern European nations that occurred post 1997. Let's see here. 112 Ukraine International. Russia embassy in Kiev covered in smoke. So what we're looking at there is quite possibly the burning of important documents inside of the Russian embassy in case all-out war breaks out and the Russian embassy is raided by Ukrainian security forces. So they want to get rid of a lot of, especially some of their clandestine activity that may be occurring in country. Let's see, UA Wire. This is important. Russia builds pontoon bridge in Belarus, shortening distance to reach Ukraine. And I'm going to kind of go in here to the area of what I've identified as Core A. This is the core that will be both operating in Belarus and the tri-border area with Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. So you have forces on both sides. You have Russian forces on the Russian side of the border facing off on the eastern side of the Dnieper River, however you want to pronounce it, and then obviously the forces in the area of Belarus as well. So what what they're saying is basically that the Russians have built a pontoon bridge on the Belarusian side of the border, not far from the border of Ukraine, and that facilitates the movement of forces that would occur closer to all these shared borders, as opposed to coming up and moving forces up through Gomel and other areas. And again, there are quite a few rivers, mainly the Pripyat River, that runs in this area. And there's not, and if you look at it closely, and we'll start from kind of like the tri-border area, and I don't have the specific location where they built the pontoon bridge. I believe it's up further here, and this is the Shaj River, not the Pripyat River, but again, a lot of rivers and not a lot of crossing opportunities in terms of if Russia wanted to move forces closer to the tri-border area without having to use existing bridge networks, because there are none. And you can go here, and this looks like a ferry crossing here. And just to give an idea of the length. and we're looking at yards, 190 yards, and I believe that was pretty close to 173 meters. So I believe the pontoon bridge that they created was about 200 meters in length. So fairly a large pontoon bridge. But if we go up here, you can see you do have roads, but the problem is circumnavigating towards the to the east is much more difficult because of a lack of bridge crossings in these areas. So if we start from, again, kind of like the tri-border area here, and we go up, there's a ferry crossing there. But I'm just going to move up until we see the first opportunity where you can cross with an existing bridge, and there it is right there. Is that a rail bridge, or yeah, it's both, I think. And if we go here, and there's not a street view, so we don't have the opportunity to look at it. So the furthest, if you go from the border north to that locale, to the border, did I pass it? I think it definitely did. But you're looking at roughly 14 miles. So what they've done is they've built a pontoon bridge closer to the border area where they can move back and forth, or cross and then move down, and what have you. And again, there's obviously multiple rivers and multiple what you would define as terrain features that prevent some movement of forces, and they're trying to alleviate that by, again, putting up these pontoon bridges. So again, a fairly important event. Is the pontoon bridge still there? Are we starting to see assets that could possibly protect the pontoon bridge from direct attack by Ukrainian forces? That will be interesting to see at some point as well. Obviously, if the Ukrainians get a pretty good idea and a fix on that locale, and hostilities break out, you would expect that they would try to use some sort of asset to take that pontoon bridge out, or attack the area near or the pontoon bridge itself. Let's see. FBI and DHS warn of Russian cyber attacks against critical infrastructure. Russian forces preparing to launch attack against Ukraine in coming days. Blinken. And it just continues. And really, we're now starting to see actual more kinetic military activity, especially in terms of the trading of fire between the Eastern separatists and quite possibly Russian units based in the Donbass area that have probably crossed over. And this is what I would identify as Core C area. That includes, again, both the Eastern separatists in Luhansk and Donetsk, but also you have fairly significant Russian military assets in conjunction with the separatists as well, that have been brought in both from the Southern Military District and the 150th Mechanized Division from, I believe it's the 8th Army that's in this area. Then obviously Corps B, which we believe are elements of the 1st Guards Tank Army, which includes the 4th Guards Tank Division. We've seen T-80Us moving near the border with that have been determined to be part of the 4th Guards Tank Division. Number one, the 4th Guards are one of the only military units that continue to use the T-80U. And the camouflage patterns on the vehicles of the 4th Guards are indicative of some of the forces that we've seen moving in the area near Belgorod and other areas as well. And obviously Corps A, which is also both mechanized and airborne and Spetsnaz formations looking to possibly conduct operations. But again, we continue to see barbs getting traded in terms of allegations of false flag operations. And I talked about earlier about the whole kidney garden attack by allegedly the Russian separatists into a town in Ukraine. I looked at that very closely, and again, that looks very suspect. It looks like that was in all probability a operation done by Ukrainian security or local forces within the region that have staged that. It does not look like there was an actual artillery attack on that specific building. Go back and look at that video I just put out today, and I kind of give an explanation on why that looks the way it looks. And you can feel free to go back and check that out. But again, very very tense situation right now. A lot of moving pieces are going on. It looks like any sort of diplomatic a solution to this is quickly going out the window, and it really looks like the military solution is going to be quite possibly the final solution, so to speak, in terms of what is currently happening. But we're going to continue to monitor, report, and watch very, very closely what is happening in this continued conflict that could become incredibly nasty very, very quick. Have a good day, everybody.